When I started thinking about my professional career, I wanted to have it all. I wanted to save the world and also have fun and make money and be able to go on a holiday all while making a strong impact on the world. Insufficient is to say that 12 years old me was quite naive, and at the time, the job of influencer didn't exist, so it wasn't a career path I could have taken. At 15, I had to make a choice. Doctor, astronaut, painter, writer, all required too much effort. And at the opposite of 12 years old me, 15 years old had already got to grips with reality and hormonal changes. So 8 years of studies and then 5 years as a trainee doctor for 14-hour shifts and no holiday didn't sound appealing to me at all. Although to this day, it makes me admire people who go down these paths even more. So I thought, what am I good and bad at? And is there anything out there that could match my skill and at the same times I wouldn't hate? Because that's how teenagers think. So I sat down and I started writing a list. I like people and I dislike injustice. I'm motivated, although I can't keep my concentration for long. I like reading, although I don't like paying attention to details. I'm quite all right at speaking, although I won't be able to follow a script and probably will end up blabbering and just so you wait for the next 10 minutes. So here I had it, politician or lawyer. It struck me as an evidence. And at the end of my university bachelor, happy with my distinction law degree and definitely disillusioned with the system of criminal law, but that would probably deserve another talk, another lightning struck. How can I work in the art with my law degree? Indeed, besides the usual things high school and university students do, I spent most of my time looking at art. I still meet my friends, but the rest of the time I'd lock myself in the room, pick a director and just watch all of their work quite methodically, to the point my mother, bless her, would literally drop meal platters in front of my room and just knock so not to disturb me. I'd go to museums and play in a theater troupe. I wasn't good with camera, even if once again, as all teenagers, I had my photography phase. I wasn't good at painting or script writing. I just enjoyed art and particularly movies. I loved it as an art medium. I loved how much you could do, how you could keep breaking limits, creating more impactful, funnier, more dramatic, more utopic or absurd. But I guess you could really say that about all forms of art. So how could I match my skills to my new idea of where I want to work? What's good about a law degree is that it really keeps a lot of doors open. I mean, if you want to work in the medical industry, you can specialize in medical law. If you want to work in the tech industry, you can specialize in tech law and so forth. So for me, I could study intellectual property and specialize in artistic matters, perhaps one day work at a museum, which sounded quite boring, but it's exactly what I did. I secured 2 masters in law, specializing in international affairs and intellectual property, and started working at an intellectual property law firm. Eventually, I regretted every single choice I had made in my life. I ran away to travel for a few months, and when I came back, an opportunity jumped to me, working in the legal business affair department of a production company. And why not? I had watched all of Tarkovsky's cinematography at 16 without anyone forcing me to. So it was a matter of time that karma would pay back, because it's not an easy nor pleasant thing to do at 16. So I got the job, and from there on, I realized I had a power. I always thought I did not have any creative talent because my concentration span was too short to be able to spend years perfectioning a craft. But I realized that I was looking at the wrong definition of creativity. I mean, we heard a lot of definition of creativity even earlier, but as a base in the dictionary, you'll find that it is the use of imagination or original ideas to create something, inventiveness. And I had that. I wanted to work in the art. I dreamt of working in movies and TV, besides many other things. And here I was. I had managed to create a solution for myself to do what I wanted to do. And I realized I had been doing that my entire life. I was being creative by finding different ways to achieve my goals. And that is an invaluable asset to have. I ended up managing a digital art department studio, then producing, coordinating more projects, more movies, more series, and I now double in direction. And I'm actually paid for it, which is more than I've ever dreamed. So if there's something to take out of this, it's a sort of advocacy for creativity and hope for all of us. I know a lot of people who come to us and say things like, break the rules, be unique when you're applying for a job or starting a new adventure. But often there's thousands of people applying for the same position or doing the same job. I just feel like sometimes this idea can really get you down, this rush to unique creativity and the idea that you have to be creatively skilled in a traditional and rare way to succeed. I find it to be outdated and to actually do a disservice to the industry. To me, creativity is simpler, more accessible, and if well executed, can really open you many doors. I work every day with some people who are extremely talented at what they do, and with others whose real talent is in creativity to be able to find creative solutions. And I had to break the utopic dream of what happens behind the big screen, but truly sometimes the simpler ideas are also the most efficient. Creativity is not always creating something completely new, but it can be about using things we know and evolve them in a new way, which is two different things. You could say that the first impressionist painter was Monet. Someone would say it's Renoir or Bazille. I mean, they were a group of four young painters who made possible the first impressionist exhibit detached from the salon. But who was the first impressionist? Was it one of these four? Was it Durand, without who the movement's fame wouldn't have spread at all or with difficulty? It's a sort of chicken and egg question, but in a way, the answer is easier to grasp than we think. It was a movement, it was an evolution of art. It was people finding new ways of doing things we already knew how to do, such as painting. Same goes behind the screen. For the movie Avatar, James Cameron used some unique new technology to work on the CG worlds of his characters, something almost never successfully done previously in the world of cinema. And we can debate how successful the movie was in itself, but let's not. This technology was and still is very expensive, which makes it inaccessible to most filmmakers out there unless you are part of a Hollywood franchise. When I started working at painting practice, the idea of how it would be possible to use such technology and democratize it in a way that makes it accessible and almost as efficient as Cameron's was already running the corridors. There were trial, errors, meetings, and long nights over the computer to get things done, but we succeeded to create an app and a software which would allow people to do just that. We didn't invent anything new, but we creatively found a new solution by reinventing the wheel to fit our purpose. Another example can simply be found in the way people organize their lives around working in the film and TV industry. It is a very taken industry which requires time and availability, something that is rare to find if, for instance, someone has personal circumstances or as simple as a family. I saw how people have been making arrangements to care for their children to a great measure, all while being able to deliver the highest quality work, for instance. And that is nothing but another proof of how we are creative daily, sometimes without even realizing it. Making arrangements, reinventing models, all while sticking to a certain process and goals can really surprise us in how we are able to think in new ways when the necessity arises. It is important we don't let ourselves and our expectation of what a creative person is be brought down by these unachievable success stories of creativity. We often envision success and international renown. We go to this how to succeed events and we look at the Steve Jobs and Elon Musks of this world, but without people around them like you and me, without previous ideas, none of their visions would have been possible at all. And all of these individuals are equally valuable. Of course, there are purely creative ideas, but they mostly date so back that it is difficult to pinpoint an exact time in history. We have to get away from the notion of creativity as it being a first time. To get back to the example of painting, We all know cavemen used to paint for, in caves for years, thousands of years ago. Um, Painting in itself is not original, but each painting is creative. Humans took these skills and kept pushing it forward, mutating it, improving it. And from the need of humans to tell histories, to better be organized, to survive, to thrive, to communicate, we had someone picking up a piece of bone and for the first time ever chalking it on a wall. We had someone making a noise for the first time ever and deciding it meant something. We had someone lying for the first time and someone thinking about how we could reach the moon. The invention of the phone is nothing but an evolution of the need of people to communicate, to share, first via signs, then language, then writing, letters, stories. The only difference is that at the time of the invention of the telephone, there were technological tools to actually be able to build it. Same goes with everything, spaceships, cars. Innovation and creativity comes from a perfect mix of creativity and technological possibilities. If we didn't understand radio waves, no one would have imagined it possible to have a phone. Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. But it's by having imagination and knowledge together that you create. Original ideas are born from the necessity of humanity. Creativity is what achieves the goal of the original ideas, which follows Voltaire's view of it. As he says, originality is nothing but judicial imitation, creativity. And we are all constantly creative. We can all train our creativity, and particularly curiosity, without which creativity is impossible. If you sit down in front of a canvas or a camera and think, I want to do something no one's ever done before, well, that's a tough cookie to break. You're putting your mindset and barriers straight away to your creative potential because you're forcing yourself to think outside what you imagine to be the box. But if you accept the basis that things have already been done in the past and question yourself about them, then your creative process is ongoing. What if Hitchcock had filmed that shower scene in Psycho differently? What would that look like? What if Van Gogh had used different colors or brush techniques for the Starry Night? And what would happen if instead of a certain camera or penciling a tool, I used another tool? Here you have it, your creativity, questioning yourself, reimagining. Ursula Le Guin, an American author, writes, the creative adult is the child who survived, exactly because of that natural curiosity which makes it possible. And most importantly, you can break the rules and still be safe. We don't need to quit our job and throw away years of studies or professional career to fulfill the image of creative we have, ironically, created for ourselves. We can question ourselves constantly and we can decide to take the path that makes more sense to us to achieve our goal, whichever one it be. Perhaps it's when you open the fridge to make dinner and see a few random ingredients, but still manage to cook something decent. Or if you want to find a new way to live on Mars, or if you see that an app could really help fix a given issue. I mean, if anything, this year has been a great example of just how much we can do when we're put in a difficult situation. We had to rethink our daily routines, our childcare system, ways to keep our mental health steady, as well as our jobs and studies, while keeping in touch with our families. And we have all done this in new, unique ways, creative ways. For the film and TV industry, someone who is able to set up a functioning and efficient visual effects pipeline for a show is as creatively valuable as the person who designs the visuals of the show. Without any piece of the big puzzle of production, there would be simply no film, or the quality would be very much affected. We have to learn to value and cherish all these different types of creativity. To conclude, I would finally pick up on that Steve Jobs quote who said that creativity is just connecting things. And indeed, it can be found in everything you do, can be nurtured and retaught. can be evolved. And most importantly, without even knowing it sometimes, it is already yours. Thank you.